Is it?
One minute. All right, we are back, reconvening the special work session regarding the superintendent search. As we concluded at 12 o'clock, we were going to receive a video from, I think it was Dr. Neal. Do we have that ready? Are we? Okay, my apologies. I thought we were ready to go. Okay. While we wait for that, I want to, just to maximize our time, go through a couple different things to make sure we're on the schedule correctly. To recap, tentative, well, so that right now we would have a special meeting called for the 9th, Friday the 9th at 9:30 to shortlist the 5 current superintendent candidates to potentially 3 or less. Then Monday, we are on the 12th as scheduled to convene at 9:30, in which the board will interview each candidate for superintendent individually, and simultaneously, the advisory board will be interviewing or asking the questions of another candidate, and I believe that's going to be in room AB. We'll finalize that after we conclude with Dr. Neal. And then we will have one-on-one interviews with board members and superintendent candidates on Tuesday, the 13th, beginning, I believe I have 9:30 at that time as well. And then we have not specified a time, but I would say 9:30 as well on Wednesday, the 14th, excuse me. And that would be where the board can make a final decision on the superintendent search, the finalists, and make a final decision on the selection. The 14th also would include public comment, as there would be certainly a vote taken and a decision made. So we will make sure that as we conclude today, that we work with communications to put out a press release, so we're specifying all those details. Perfect. And on the superintendent page. Okay, perfect. So those are just the recaps of what we just went over. And Mr. Edwards?
If I may, I'd like to suggest that on Monday, the 12th, since the 3 finalists will be here, that we have a town hall I think open house environment, so the public would have a chance to interact with the 3 finalists before a decision is made?
So, thank you. I know in the past we've done a town hall, excuse me, not a town hall. We did an open house, as a couple of times ago where we had, I want to say 3 or 4 candidates. It was at STC. It worked very well where I don't remember the specific details, but it does afford the community an opportunity to meet face to face with the various candidates. It would be a specified time frame, like, based on when we conclude here. I know they'll have a long day, but I do think I'm definitely open to that if we can help, if staff can assist in that aspect. Board members, do you guys have any thoughts, concerns, questions, support? No? Yes? Yes? So something like an open house, so we would include that on the press release. Do we need to confirm, I'm looking at Craig, just for anyone, do we need to confirm availability for the space at STC? I know we were talking about VPAC, but I don't know if that's conducive really for a open house, but for all of our South County people, we were thinking about that, trying to find a centrally located facility, but that would, yeah.
In the past, I believe we've done it at STC here in the central area here, right here off Proctor Road in Beneva. So I'll have to see if I can schedule that to make sure that it's not already booked for some other event. And I would assume it would be in the evening hours, like 5 to 7 or something like that. Does that?
Depending on when we conclude here, so I just have to have Kathy, but I would think it's like a 5:30 to 7:30 or 6 to 8. Mr. Enos?
Also, I also have been to events, as I would also, if you want to do something a little bit more central, as Pineview at their cafeteria, since it opens into 2 large rooms at the Pineview also has the parking and the capacity in order to do it, which is a little bit more South County-ish in regard to trying to get as many people that would want the opportunity to get there, especially as I brought up the traffic in Sarasota.
Yeah.
So Pineview and the cafe, since I don't believe they're hosting summer school, that hopefully they would be able to accommodate the scheduling of that.
Okay, so then we'll work for Pineview as option A and then STC as option B.
That works. I just want to make sure it's a wide enough space so that we can comfortably fit people. And I think cafeteria works perfect.
Perfect.
That's where we did, part of it, yeah, we did it, I don't know if it was Riverview or STC now I think about it. Either way, it was Riverview, was it? Yeah, it was Riverview. So, but either way, yeah, I think that's a great opportunity. And so if you don't mind, can we,
Absolutely.
if board members, if you're okay, if we can ask Craig to identify the location?
As soon as I get that taken care of, we'll put it as part of the whole schedule that will show up on our website, superintendent's page, as well as a press release going out to the
And a
public.
big shout out to our communications team for doing a lot throughout this search. I really appreciate it. And one additional thing that they'll be doing is just to note, and again, we'll include this so there's clarity because I know that we're kind of jumping around, kind of working through this as we move forward. But also during the advisory committee, what we will be doing is I had a conversation with Craig during our break, and since we are doing live stream of the interviews with the board members and the superintendent candidates, unfortunately we're not equipped to do 2 live streams simultaneously, but to allow board members as well as members of the public the opportunity to listen to the candidates' responses to the advisory committee's questions. They'll be taping it and uploading it online, separating each candidate at a time. So that will be, it'll have a bit of a lag, but it will be available for everyone, including board members, to watch prior to the 14th when there's a decision made. Are we good to go, or do we still need a little bit? Okay. I think I've concluded all of those logistics. One other thing, just as we go through this, I had asked council to, and actually this is important, making sure that the board members had put forward the names for their advisory appointees, making sure Kathy and or Patrick has their contact information. What I had suggested was that a notice go out to them today, since it's about a week away, that pending a board action tomorrow, that they will be kind of giving them the lay of the land, the time, the location, reminder of the sunshine rules, and then also have a contact person. I think either Mr. Duggan or Mrs. Tompkins will identify that, so if they have any questions, but that way they are notified, and again, that's pending the vote tomorrow. What else am I missing? I think I've covered everything that we have. So, we are just waiting here for Dr. Neal. So we will just put this on pause and recess and then reconvene when they have the video ready. So. No problem. We'll just stand in recess until that's ready to rock.
I want to thank these tech guys for being so flexible. Good? Yep. Okay. Okay. So, sorry.
Hold on. Are we good to go? All right. So then we are back. Calling this meeting back to order, the workshop, excuse me, for special work session June 5th. The time is 1:15. We are reconvening for Dr. Neal, one of our superintendent candidates, a video that was submitted now. So,
Thank you.
Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
Joel.
So What we know about Dr. Neal, and again, he was not part of our original shortlist, is, now I just got to get on the web. He's currently, from 2021 till now, he's got his own consulting group. Prior to that, he did a year, superintendent, he did a year in Woodland Park, which is a mid-sized school district, 375, 390 staff. Prior to that, he was overseas, 6 years in the Middle East. And then he did 1 year in Sweetwater, Wyoming, very, very small school district in Wyoming. And then he did 2 years in Denver Public Schools as Director of Strategy and Innovation. So to his credit, and he was in Durango for 6 years prior to that. To his credit, he dropped everything to produce the video so that you can get a look at him, and then we can decide if he's going to be advanced into the process. So I will tell you, he's been an applicant for a couple of other McPherson and Jacobson positions in the last few years as well, too. So if we can roll the tape, this is Dr. Neal.
Greetings, Matthew Neal. Thank you very much for having me. When I looked at the position in Sarasota, it was really an exciting opportunity for me to connect to systems improvement and doing what's best for kids across a larger system. When I was in Denver Public Schools, I had 27 schools that were a little bit more of its own district within a district, and 18,000 students, not nearly as large as Sarasota, but the experience of developing teams and structure in that network of schools. And then later as a superintendent, having the experience of building a strategic plan. You know, as a superintendent, you have two kinds of authority, and it's a positional authority because I said so, and a relational authority because you lead in your actions and in your integrity. And I see this as a really great opportunity to bring our community within the greatest Sarasota community together. And that's our teachers, our leaders, our community and city council, very many of our Chamber of Commerce. That's work that I've done in the past. And I saw this as a great opportunity to connect in that way. I deal very much in a relational authority way. Lead great teams, and I see that the team is already in place and the structure is already in place, but how are we mentoring and coaching and guiding our executive leaders is really important to me. Holding high levels of accountability, holding a high level of trust and expectation towards integrity is a lot of the work that I've done in the past. And so when I see the work of data-driven instruction, and I see the work of improved communication, and I see the work of providing multiple options and multiple pathways, career and tech ed, students on the spectrum from our ELL and our special education students, all of those are opportunities that I've done in the past and I've led through in the past, and all of those are opportunities that are in place and need some focus in Sarasota schools. And so really feel like I was able, and would be able to come in and help support the work that's been happening, but bring about that healing and that connection between the community of both parents and students and teachers and staff and leaders throughout the community. My work with the school board has been really successful in the past as well. Communicating in a very regular, avid way, developing relationship, developing connection, developing vision with our school board, and then as a team of 6 or 7, getting forward in action and setting the plan for the district and holding accountability to those plans and actions for success. There's a lot of great work that's already happening in the district now, and when I saw the connection to success for all students, I thought that's a really good dovetail for the work that I've done in the past. I've worked in minority and majority districts as well as just very diverse communities of students, and making sure that we allow students to pursue.
Yeah, and little grace on the 3-minute thing. Normally he would have had time to practice and gotten it within the 3.
Matthew Neal, again, thank you for having me. You know, when I look at the stakeholder report that McPherson and Jacobson has provided, as well as some of my internal connections, I do know a couple colleagues in the district, making sure that we have a clear direction, we have a clear strategic plan, we have a clear focus as a district, and we have clear goals. One of the first primary factors is stakeholder confusion. And I've developed strategic plans and strategic direction, and that happens by our leadership team and myself being present in the schools and being present in our community. In the past, I've led a monthly Q&A with staff, and it was 5,000, 6,000 people logged in the community and dialoguing and connecting questions and answers, and people at the table handing me sticky notes as we're really navigating through being a good communicator. And that's really the foundation of building trust and collaboration, is being a good communicator. Building a general sense of disconnectedness was also listed as a stakeholder concern. And that comes from regular relational connection. I mentioned in the earlier question, a superintendent can be a positional authority or a relational authority. And that's really my work, is to tell the great story that we're doing as a district and working with our team to develop that. Making sure that we have high levels of expectations for our principals, and that's both an formative as well as a summative evaluation standpoint, and just relationship connection. I would begin Zooming and connecting as soon as the dotted line was signed, that we are in a relationship of connection between principals and leaders and I, as well as the board, and making sure that we're having time to discuss the key factors, increasing and having high levels of communication. I regularly have board retreats, board training, and making sure that I assess where we're, the heart of where we're feeling like we need to go as a leadership, as a board team, and then translating that work to the leadership team. I have great relationships with our board in the past, and will continue to be a high level of communicator, either through this video forum or Friday updates, and I've done that work pretty frequently. I've also done that work with staff as well. Video updates, Friday updates, Tuesday's tip for how to stay connected in the district, and just telling the great story of what's going on. Making sure that I'm at city council and county commissioners meetings, and meeting with our teacher representatives, and even developing a teacher leadership team. I've done that in the past as well, where we had 30 or 40 teachers that are mentoring and growing into leadership roles inside the district. And that gives me a chance to stay well connected. And being in classrooms as well, doing classrooms observations. I think I did 27 days last year where I was observing classrooms in a formal way. And that helps me as an instructional leader stay connected to the work. And there was some healing that needs to happen in Sarasota, and I know that. That comes through.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Neal, if you're watching, for your very rapid response to that addition. So, are there any comments? Seeing none, my question is, as I went through again the time frame, if we reconvene on Friday, that really to shortlist, is there only one that has to travel pretty far?
Yeah.
That's just very. I'm just curious. Do we want to shortlist it, or do we just go to 5? So, it's a very short amount of time to give someone to travel. If they're Friday, they have to be here by Sunday. It's doable, but Mrs. Rose.
Is there any consideration of re-ranking the 3 that we had talked about earlier, or having a discussion on that we haven't been able to have on Dr. Neal?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to that. In my mind, if we're able to.
I'm not, I appreciate the video. I'm still focused in on the academic pieces that I saw in our other candidates, so I'd like to have a discussion.
Yeah, go ahead. Are there any other comments? Mr. Enos, I see you, yep.
And going along with what Ms. Rose says is I believe that, I would put forward that Dr. Neal would not be part of the process as we move forward together, based upon still the completion of the information that needs to come in the vetting out process, as well as what's been provided, as well as his not having a district based on the other candidates that have had any substantial employees and or students. I don't believe, based on what's been presented, that I would request that we would not move forward with him, even though that he's an excellent candidate.
Thank you. I don't see any other people up here. I would confirm. I think that of the 4 are very strong. I feel very good about where we were. I do appreciate Dr. Neal responding quickly. I do think there was the substance of the academic piece is something that really stood out to me on the other candidates, and I think that's really important. And made me feel more confident about their ability to jump right in. So that's my contention. So I don't know if we need to formally vote. Mr. Edwards, there you go.
I just want to qualify that from our perspective, for example, I think it's Dr. Phillips, doesn't really have academics in his background. He's CIO, and we really talked about having a strong academic as a number two. So I don't want to use that as a broad brush for Dr. Neal. I think in terms of doing a deeper dive and reconsidering Dr. Neal in the short list or in the five, I think we're all on that page, but not for the reasons of academics.
Mrs. Rose?
I decline, thanks.
I just want to clarify, mine came down to more the responses. I think that
Right.
the detailed responses. I do think that, again, for me personally, I think the operational side is very important. I think the executive side to me is the most important, and anyone in these positions, their ability to identify strong leaders from the academic standpoint and then operational, I think they will play a vital role. But I was referencing from the academics on the responses, just to clarify. Mrs. Rose?
And I wanted to make that same clarification. That's where I was going as well with the responses from the videos today that were very much directed at academic achievement and what that would look like, and making some very apparent headway in the very near future. And that's my primary goal.
So should we re-rank, or just to be accurate?
Probably to be consistent, we should. So we've got, in that second round, we had Neal, Foster, and Van Zant. So I would ask you to re-rank those three, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Is Mrs. Marinelli, do you mind starting? Are you ready, or do you need a minute?
I think so.
The three.
I'm ready if you want.
Well, I'm going to go backwards. Neal, 3.
Okay?
Foster, 2, and then Van Zant, 1.
Okay.
Mrs. Rose?
Van Zant, 1, Foster, 2, Neal, 3.
Mine would be the same. Van Zant, 1.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, went really quick.
I'm sorry, I was quick. Ranking first would be Van Zant, second would be Foster, third would be Neal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mine would also echo Van Zant, 1, Foster, 2, Dr. Neal, 3.
Thank you.
I would do Foster, Van Zant, Neal.
Mr. Edwards?
I would do Foster, Neal, Van Zant.
Very good, okay. Okay, so it shakes out a little bit differently. Van Zant is low at 8, followed by Foster at 9, and then Neal is 14. So it looks like it's Van Zant and Foster, coupled with the two from the first round, which would be Connor and Phillips.
So to clarify, we have Dr. Connor, we have Dr. Phillips, Dr. Foster, Mr. Van Zant.
Yes.
Okay, oh, that's good. Okay.
Very good. So that would, well, thank you very much for all of this. This has been helpful. And thank you to my board members for working through this and collaboratively. So moving then to the next items, I want to make sure we work through the advisory committee, if you want to talk through that. That was next on our item.
Just to clarify, so there will be a meeting Friday or no meeting Friday? Has that been determined?
So I was going to go through that after the advisory, but do we want a meeting on Friday to shortlist this further? Or do you want to just move to Monday where we have all 4, and then in between now and Monday, we have a Zoom call with each of the 4 candidates. If I'm going to go first, my preference is just to move to Monday, like move forward with 4 candidates. That would be my preference, but I'm one of 5. I'm open to whatever any thoughts are. So chime in if you like. Anyone? Do you have any thoughts? Mr. Eno?
Madam Chair, I'd also move to have the 4. I believe that that is manageable and gives us a variety, as well as doing the Zoom call during the week.
Okay. Miss,
I'm good with that.
you guys are fine, Mr. Mr. Edwards? Yeah? Okay, so just to confirm, we'll do Zoom meetings, a 30-minute meeting that'll be scheduled, Mrs. Tompkins, between us. She just took our availability with the 4 semifinalists, if that's what I can call them, this week. And then we'll be convening on Monday as scheduled at 9:30 for public interviews with the board members and each candidate. At the same time, there'll be an advisory committee meeting, which will also be interviewing the candidates. And if we could just expand upon that a little bit more for board members and the public.
Yes, thank you. I will be here Monday morning, asking the committee to convene at 8:30 a.m. And then I will go over the process with them, discuss their purpose, and also share their feedback forms that they're going to fill out after. And I will also prepare questions that I will ask and facilitate with the group so that we're consistent with each of the 4 candidates. And then I'll provide the feedback form after each candidate is met in a sealed envelope and pass them on to you as the board so that you have that for your reference going forward.
And the feedback form says is
It'll have 2 open-ended questions in terms of listing what they believe, each individual believes the strengths are of the candidate and what they believe to be their concerns or questions that they might have about the candidate.
And so they're questions, but they're not asking the candidates
No,
questions.
no,
They're posing-
I will be facilitating that with them.
And to be clear, they're not ranking or eliminating anyone. They're just jotting down their feedback, which is a tool for you all, and then you will make a complete and independent and from-scratch decision when you reach that decision. Their comments are just as feedback, not as some type of formal action that you're rubber stamping. You're the decision makers.
Right, absolutely, and I will be emphasizing that when we meet with that group.
Okay.
They are advisory.
Their advisory, their feedback is it. So it's not, and that's for for a myriad of compliance aspects that our attorney had to identify that. Do you guys have any questions about the advisory? Are you guys good with all of that?
I'm good.
All right. Well, that was easy. Good job. Okay, so that concludes that component. So just to reiterate, the names have been identified. They and I had asked council to send a notice out to each advisory member pending tomorrow's vote, just giving them a heads up of the time and schedule that Mrs. Tompkins and Mr. Duggan will identify the location, give them the arrival time, and then the questions that you'll be asking them will be presented at that on Monday?
Yes.
Okay, and then Dr. Joel, if it goes to the questions that we're going to be asking the candidate as board members, can you speak to that?
Yes, I will. So I've got two board members submitted questions. We figure we have anywhere between 16 and 20 questions. We like them to be open-ended, not, yes or no, of course, or true or false questions. So if you have some questions you'd like to have included, would you get those to Kathy and she can get them to me? And I'll get them formatted so that you have them ready to go when you conduct those interviews. And if you don't want to, we've actually taken the liberty of taking your criteria and creating some questions too. So, and they're good. So and they're not off of any other interview that's been conducted. So don't feel like you have to turn those in. But if there's something you really want to ask in a public forum, get the question to us and we'll put them together for you.
Very good. Are there any questions about the questions? All right, seeing none. Are there any outstanding items that you need to discuss with us?
The only, good work today. We got a little sidetracked a little bit, but I
We know
think
how to
we
pivot
recovered
here.
pretty nicely and appreciate the opportunity to work with you. Once it's all done and you have your superintendent, we, as part of our package, will come back and we'll work with you and that superintendent and create some first-year performance expectations. And that's a big part of the model, and it's the work that I really like the most. And we want to do that 30 to 45 days after they've begun to give them a chance to learn the landscape. We'll also include some team building in there too, which is really about how do you best communicate amongst your with as a team with your superintendent, decision making, kind of policy governance, although we don't go that deep, but that whole idea that there are roles and responsibilities that high-performing districts adhere to that ultimately leads to great outcomes for your kids. So I do know this, with all the people that we spoke with and all the people that we interacted with via the survey, there's just a ton of interest, and ultimately there's going to be a ton of support. So thank you for being transparent and for being willing to put yourselves out there a little bit, because it hasn't been easy for anybody. And I do know that when this is all said and done, it's a time for your community and your staff to come together and just be the best district that you can possibly be, and it's a very good one right now. So we thank you from behalf of both of us, and we thank you very much for this opportunity. We're excited for what's coming down the pike.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. Again, to my colleagues, thank you for making today great and for all the input. I think we had a successful meeting, and I look forward to the next steps. So I was just going to talk about the communication. So Mr. Manuculeo.
Great, thank you. I have secured Pine View and the Student Union for Monday the 12th between 6 and 8 p.m.
Perfect.
So that will be part of this agenda that you'll see on the website. So Student Union at Pine View School from 6 to 8 on the 12th.
So superintendent superintendent candidate open house, Monday, the 12th, June 12th, from 6 to 8 at Pine View Student Union, Student Hall. And we will send out, the communications team will be compiling all of the various dates that are upcoming next week into a press release, so there's clarity as to who, what, where, and why, when. And then I just want to reconfirm on the 14th, beginning at 9:30, which will be decision day for the board when we are appointing and selecting our final the superintendent, and that will afford the public the opportunity to speak during public comment. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because the other two meetings are really more workshop or interviews. But we do want to hear from the public, and we encourage you to go to the open house on Monday, and also please certainly can email us. I understand Wednesday may not be available during the day for everyone, but it will be available for public comment for those who want to speak. And that concludes everything, unless there are any final comments or thoughts on the superintendent. Mr. Duggan.
I just will add, there will be obviously public comment before the final selection, but there also will be public comment tomorrow evening, and we're going to get out press release. So I would, as the lawyer, encourage the public to consume that ahead of tomorrow. You'll have 2 opportunities for public comment. The process will be ongoing, so it will not be complete tomorrow, but you will, once the process is complete, other than the final selection, an additional opportunity for public comment will be available prior to the board making a pick.
And just to clarify, there will be action items in addition to adding the special meeting for the 14th tomorrow. We'll be taking action to formally adopt that as a special meeting. And one additional item, since discussing schedules, I know that this is not related to superintendent search, but given the numerous meetings that we're having and the length of meetings we're having, I wanted to propose that instead of doing a marathon day on the 20th, I heard you guys loud and clear, and wanted to see if board members, if the 21st, we broke it up on doing a board meeting on the 6th and then the 21st as a workshop. Now, I don't have the agenda in front of me. I don't believe, I can reflect on it briefly. I don't believe there's anything on it that's contingent on the board meeting, for example, that needs to precede it, and I don't have staff here. So, but as long as that's acceptable, does that work for everyone's schedule? I need to make sure.
On the 20th.
The board meeting on the 20th and the workshop on the 21st. But again, does that work for everyone's schedule? So we can make that formal tomorrow as well, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up. All right, are there any other comments for the good of the? Nope, all
Yes,
right.
thank you.
Thank you very much, I really appreciate it. So seeing no additional comments, without objection, we stand adjourned.